Bureau of Engineering Architectural Division. I'm an architect by training and by experience, and now the Proposition K Program Manager. I'm sorry.
The acoustics in this place are horrible.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I can't hear you here. They can't hear you.
You got you. I'm the Proposition K Program Manager, so I'm managing all the remaining projects within the Proposition K program. Hold on, let me introduce you.
Oh, I'll introduce myself first. Okay, I can start there. Hi, my name is Lisa Davis. I'm with the Department of Cultural Affairs. I'm the Community Arts Director, so I'll be helping shepherd the programming for the center, and here to answer questions, here to help, here to get you all what you need to have this place operational. Introduce Daniel.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Daniel Tariq. I'm the General Manager for the Department of Cultural Affairs, and we are very excited to be here meeting with you all as we move this process forward.
Sean Silva, Office of Councilman Tracy Moore.
And we have some special guests from the mayor's office that like that.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mary Nestle. I'm the West Area representative for Mayor Bass's Office of Community Engagement, representing Seafood.
Hi, good evening. My name is Oscar Mancilla, and I'm planning all the affairs.
In community engagement.
What is formerly known as the Old Venice Library was to be converted into the Oakwood Junior Arts Center. Right? And at the time, there was roughly $500,000 that was allocated to the project. That was, again, a ballot measure, and that is what initiated the project. Now, over time, the project took several different phases. There was some CDBG funding that was applied for based on the original tenants of the facility, the Latino Resources Group and the Helper Foundation. Now, that project was completed, but it didn't incorporate the Junior Arts Center components, and that was required by the ballot measure. So the good thing is that the building has really had a really thorough retrofit, and this next phase of the project is fairly minor. It's just to really address the programming needs for the junior arts components that you guys will vote on as DCA will present the many different types of components you can have at the facility. And that's our goal here today, is to hear your opinions on the types of programming, arts programming you want to see at the facility. Next slide. So a little rundown of what I just talked about. Please, next slide. And I'm moving through this because we've already wasted enough of your time. I don't want to waste any more of it. So the Proposition K program requires, wisely, the community engagement. They dialed that into the ballot measure. And that required the creation of the local volunteer neighborhood oversight committees. So that committee is composed of folks from the community, clearly, and related to arts. And it's two committee members are typically proposed by our client group, and then the rest are proposed by the council office. Next slide, please. So we know that this great area that we're in, go through this. Next slide, please. So just really quickly, in general, of some of the components that DCA is always looking to install in an equitable manner across all of the facilities throughout Los Angeles. And I stress that because that's one of our focuses, is making sure that equity is dialed in, the money is dialed in, to have the same high level of junior arts programming everywhere throughout Los Angeles. Here, obviously, they will be producing solo and art group exhibitions, helps create art outreach programs for underserved populations, develop special initiatives to young people. A lot of these initiatives, what I love about this community, this particular project, we're already dialed in. So I feel like that's really going to be easy for us to accomplish with the informed group of people that we have. Obviously, we'll be promoting numerous events based on the community events, community needs, possibly even neighborhood council meetings, as well as, of course, the main focus, the junior arts center components themselves. The building, once again, as a preservation architect as well, I was really happy to see that care was taken in the initial phase of this project. A lot of the historic fabric, the character-defining features of the project, of the building, were preserved and preserved in the right way. And we look forward to doing the same as we move Obviously, and DCA will speak on the variety of classes and programming across all platforms and art disciplines that are considered art, which was educational, informational for me. Because even though I've been working on some art centers, the different types of art that are allowed in this program have been evolving, which is great because technology has been evolving. We need to evolve with it. And then, of course, when we also were providing after-school program, arts engagement, and program opportunities for the CSU, similar to what the previous programs that were there were doing. Okay. Next slide, please. So really quickly, this is a floor plan. We have two options here that we wanted to show you today. So this is a floor plan that really preserves the larger open space, right? At no place are we looking to divide that larger library space. We're going to come back with newer, more transparent modular walls, as you can see to the right, accommodating the art center operator or nonprofit art center operators' needs with conference space, storage, conference space, office, open office space off to the right. And as you can see down the spine of the building to the right, the existing restrooms have already been rehabilitated. All of those spaces have actually already been rehabilitated. So really, it's this, in terms of the scope of work for this phase and this option, it's those modular offices. They'll be 8 foot high, they will not go up to the ceiling. And the dividing wall that's in the center space here, unfortunately I don't have a pointer, but as you can see where the chairs and tables are laid out in the center, that's the space that we'd like to divide along the column lines, preserving all of the beautiful arches in those spaces. Divide that space and create two art classrooms. And the types of space, types of art, obviously, we decided by you guys. Right? In the larger open space, the L and Y shaped figures you see there, those are small movable partitions. And so that's to accommodate the art gallery components. And when they're not needed, they're folded away, put into a large storage room. Right? Making this space continue to be as flexible as possible. From the sort of teen lounge, which is a component that not only DCA but other city entities are utilizing to really bring the youth in and make them comfortable, so that they feel like they can do any and all of the things there. It just becomes a space for them to be, right? And that's kind of really important. You guys know teenagers in Los Angeles, period, there's oftentimes no space for them to be, and then they find these other spaces to be, which don't necessarily lead them around that, right? So providing that along the top wall there, as you can see, there's a desk that will accommodate about 8 to 10 computer terminals, and those can either be flexible, as we'll see in the next option, or they can be essentially what they're designed as now is a table that can fold up and down as needed. Folds into the wall, out of the way when no one is utilizing it, and when you've got a full group of teens or anyone, because the Junior Arts Center does become intergenerational at some point, but anyone who needs that space can come utilize it for that need. To the left, as you see, a little grace window that's sort of in the middle of that. This is really beautiful, beautiful. And you know this building's a beautiful fireplace there. We really want to preserve that as it is now, not put anything hard surfaced in front of it, or that can't be moved. And so all of this just becomes like a collection of really beautiful furniture that can be moved around to accommodate the needs of the community. And the space to the left at the bottom, that space has been just in discussion, has been discussed as a performance art space, a dance studio of some sort. And again, the details of that we'll hear from you on, and then we'll design to that detail. Next slide, please. So this iteration is fairly the same, and the core spaces to the bottom right. To the top right, you'll see the conference room space, and there we've added the storage room as one of the modular spaces so that it can be easily accessed directly from the art gallery area. And then obviously to the right, in sort of greenish, we'll have your open office spaces with the desk really facing the beautiful gallery area, so that we can keep eyes on everything, right? So that who's ever operating the space, they can still handle their business inside their office and not be looming over a teenager trying to make sure they're doing right. The art gallery space is similar. When you move around, it's very flexible. I have a little collateral imagery there so you can see what we're kind of talking about. And then to the top of that space, there we're looking at more mobile pedestals that anyone can use to connect to the internet. Again, just make a flexible space for them. At the bottom, the orientation in that middle room that we're dissecting, the orientation has changed a little bit, but the overall goal is the same. We can make that and change that orientation based on the need. Right now, it's just kind of showing like an arrangement for easels and chairs. But as you know, as we move into digital art and other sculptural arts, we can make those modifications. Next slide, please. So some of the arts, go back really. So one of the challenges here, where the large gallery sort of meets our classrooms, and you see there's 3 open spaces there. So there's these really beautiful interior arches that we want to preserve. We need to bisect the space so that there can be some teaching moments and acoustically feasible so that you can actually hear each other. And so what we want to do there is use storefront systems, which is, and you can go to the next slide. Use a large storefront system that allows the light that's coming from the back of that building to filter all the way through the front, right? The windows in the larger gallery space are fairly high, and they do provide an ample amount of light, but we don't want to necessarily create any dark spaces by creating partitions between those areas, right? And having eyes on the space, just the feeling of walking into the space and seeing all the activities is inspiring itself. So just conceptually, some of the storefront windows systems that we're thinking of that retain the architecture, clearly show that it's a new system, not something that's trying to be old and historic, which is the incorrect approach for historic preservation. Next slide. And some of the modular wall systems off to the left, this is a common system that we would utilize for those modular wall 8-foot high spaces. Those systems would not require a ceiling, so we don't have to spend more money trying to bring HVAC and electrical and lighting down to those now enclosed and secure spaces, right? Similar to the way it is, but much nicer. Next slide. And then just some collateral imagery about the different types of movable partitions that we've seen in plenty of art galleries, work fairly well, and again, can be quickly moved out of the way to make way for the grand opening dance we're going to have when we get this thing done. Next slide, please. And at this point, I want to turn it over to Lisa so she can walk through the many varieties of arts programming that's available.
So, Haji, you covered a lot of it. I mean, there's really, it's, kind of open to your imagination. So at other art centers, we have dance, we have drum, we have visual arts, we have digital arts. The world is your oyster. So really it depends on how the space will, we want to keep it modular, we want to keep it flexible. But even a maker space like this would be amazing, especially, as we're in the 21st century now. It would be great to have a maker space. But yeah, it's kind of open to your imagination. I don't have too much to add, but if you have thoughts or questions, I'm here to answer. Yeah.
The preservation and everything looks amazing and beautiful, but why change the name? I don't understand why it's now Oakwood Junior Art Center versus Vera Davis, which was the original name for, maybe not the original name for the library, but obviously known as the Vera Davis Center. So I'm wondering how that came about and why.
I think that's an Ohaji question.
And who authorized that?
Do you want me to, can we pause on this really quickly, just to go back to programming, if there's any?
Sure, I'll answer that question.
Yeah, is that all right?
If you don't.
Sure,
Yeah.
but I think a lot of people want the answer to that question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't know how much more you have in the presentation either, so.
Just collateral. We'll just run through the collateral.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that.
Same questions all to the answer.
I think that would be great. Anyway, in terms of the programming, that's the DCA, that's where we come in. So again, if you have questions or thoughts, suggestions, There's so much that could be done. And Ohaji, one other thing I wanted to mention was the intergenerational programming that he talked about. We have events, festivals, all kinds of things that happen at our other art centers that really work to bring seniors and all ages to really feel comfortable in the arts. When we say the arts, all of our arts centers, we are saying arts now because we want to make sure that we're focused on multidisciplinary arts and multi-generational. So there really is not a limit yet. I like to dream big, and then we'll tell you what's possible, how we need to bring it in. But we're here to. I think one thing to think about as you're thinking about the programming is really assessing your neighborhood, where the lapses are right now, where you're seeing, like if you're seeing that there's not a lot of music classes offered right now, or there's not a lot of dance, whatever it is that you feel that should be more of, that's the kind of thing that we can do now. And then we also want to make sure that it's flexible and open so that in 10 years, 20 years down the road, if the programming needs to change based on our children and our children's children and where they might be artistically, just something to think about in that direction.
I have a question, please.
Yeah.
Dr. Naomi Nightingale. When the gentleman, I'm sorry, didn't Ohaji, when you were speaking about the measure Proposition K and the process, and you said that there was a component of the program which included Helpers Foundation and another agency that was completed, but did not include the arts component. Can you express or elaborate on that, the completion? What was that component that was completed? I didn't understand that.
So this is, once again, prior to my involvement. A community development block grant application was applied for. And unfortunately, project managers out here, he gave us even more detail with the exact amount, et cetera. I'm sorry, will do. So the community development block grant was applied for initially, and that application was based on the tenants who were there and their needs, right? So we designed and constructed it only to find out that one of our tenants had decided to leave. They went to the West Side Civic Center, I believe, the Latino Resources Group. And unfortunately, the other tenant, the Helper Foundation, they did relocate and were met with resistance.
They were forced.
We were forced to relocate.
No, I understood.
Okay, let them finish and then we will.
Everybody had to relocate for us to actually do the
Right,
construction.
exactly.
Right. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying.
How would you just be finding out?
Excuse me?
I said, how would you just be finding out if you knew that they had to leave in order for construction to occur? Then you
No.
answer.
No. I didn't just find out. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I've been talking to the Helper Foundation for the last year and a half.
So
We've been
you
trying
guys
to.
found
That's
out.
not true.
That you found out that they had to leave, of course they had to leave if construction is happening.
You guys,
Absolutely.
just 1 second. We're gonna let him finish, and then whatever the truth of the facts are, according to what you know, then we can address it. But if we're interrupting and we don't hear everything that he has to say, we don't know how to respond to it. So, thank you.
Understood. So, like I said, the original project was the completion of the work, that was the preservation work, the infrastructure work, that was based on the original tenants. And upon completion of that, they realized that the Prop K project had not gone through, it had not accomplished the goals of the Prop K project. It had not developed the infrastructure, the classrooms to accommodate a junior arts. And so that's when we had to, once again, get back into the weeds, as we are here with you right now, right, to move this project.
Whose responsibility was it? Because the tenants wouldn't have known what your process was in terms of what needed to be done in terms of including Measure K facets of the program.
So that project, it wasn't, because it wasn't a Prop K project, didn't go to the Prop K steering committee, right? What they did is they leveraged the funds for that grant to rehab the center so that the Prop K project would have less to do. Right, this project, as you noted, only had $500,000 initially. We're up to about 1.8 now, and that's what we intend to spend here today is Prop K funds. The remainder of those CDBG funds, roughly around $300,000, for the scope as we designate, as we move forward.
So when you said that that component of the program was completed,
Mhm.
did that also mean that the Helpers Foundation were no longer eligible or likely to be in that building, that they were excluded at the completion of the project?
And so about a year ago, this was brought to my attention. And I reached out to the Helper Foundation, the council office as well, to figure out how this came about, how was it that they're not necessarily being allowed back in, like right now. And they mentioned that, well, this prop K project has to be completed. And in order for us to bring them back in, we have to do it in a manner that is kind of fair to all. We can't sole source them back into the building, is what I was directed by the city attorney's office and everyone else who was involved at the steering committee level. Now, what we've discussed with cultural affairs is the best way to do that. So in order to resolve that, we're going to release, at the end of the project, we'll release an RFP. And the request for proposal will be for providing the services in the facility. And in my discussions with the Helper organization, they listed off many of the artistic programming components they have within their facility, in their abilities, right? And the relationship they have with Otis, et cetera. So we documented that, put it in the steering committee report, and that was the path forward, that we could release this RFP and make sure that the folks who were initially involved in this project get heads up first that there will be this RFP. They'll be able to dial in as we sit here today and dial in the program of what's provided in the facility. They will have that heads up to do that as well.
Well, I'll just conclude with my saying this because I spoke about this issue three years ago at the time that the Vera Davis Center was going into its construction. So there was never a discussion with the Helper Foundation that they could not come back into the building. So that was not fair, inappropriate, prejudicial, and absolutely unacceptable. I also know that there were other people that knew that there was a strategy to not include the Helper Foundation, and there are people in this room who knew about that. Ms. Davis, I think you knew about that. So the issue here is that the Helper Foundation and the organization that did leave were supporting this community, the Black and brown youth in this community, from day one when Vera Davis Center became a center. So I know the political aspects of Proposition K. I know what the then council person said about the CBD grants and the money that was not available, and so they threw in the Arts Council money to keep, doing Measure K money, to keep the center operational because they said there were no more block grant funds to make the center continue operating. This is the information that went to the community. I don't know if that was true enough. But there has been continuing conversation with principal people in council office and in the arts cultural department to say that the community is not going to find it acceptable for the Helper Foundation not to go back into that center on some grandfathered opportunity that served this community for over 25, 30 years, and it's not fair to throw them away, not give them an opportunity to advocate for themselves other than what you just said, and most importantly, not let the community and many people in this room know what we should have been doing years ago in order to ensure that you all understood that from day one. So that's what I have to say about that.
And I think that's fair, to be quite honest. My conversations with others around this issue have been in line with that. It was not fair. Now, how we move forward is different. So, two things, but before I answer your questions. There's the project and then there's operations. They're separate issues. Here we're talking about the project, scope, and then we'll be talking about operations. The operations angle we attempted to address with the RFP. Now, if that's not acceptable, right, as I hear that it's not, right, then we have to go another route to accommodate that. But that's not the project. So I just want everybody to be clear that we don't want to hold up the project, which needs to be delivered regardless to the community, while we figure out operations along the way. Okay? I'm going to run through the budget real quick, and then I'm just going to answer all your questions. Okay? And I'll just get out. So, as I said, the project initially started with $500,000 through prop pay, interest, earnings, and inflation. That number has gone up to roughly $1.5 million. There were savings from the CDBG project, $327,000 will be applying to this. We're at roughly $1.8 million. Now, in developing this budget with the floor plan that we were looking at earlier, I basically threw in all the bells and whistles, right? I wanted to make sure that we get to a number that's going to accommodate almost all the scope we can even possibly think about to go into that budget in terms of the types of programming and the infrastructure that's needed for it, right? So with that said, now we can jump into all of the questions.
Your board has a question.
Yeah,
Go with the board member first, and we'll come to you, sir.
Can you
And then
introduce the board?
Yeah.
Certainly.
How did the board come about, all of that?
Certainly. So as I said earlier, the LVNOC members are appointed by the council office and the Department of Cultural Affairs. When it's with recreation and parks, it's the council office of recreation and parks, et cetera. So they're appointed. We find folks who are willing to attend all the meetings, deal with this, who find the issue important in the community, who are dialed in to you folks, and those are the members who will. Go here first, and then I'm going to start to the right and just come all the way around the room.
Hi everyone, my name is Jaime Zavala. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the executive director of Venice Arts, which has been around for 31 years. I'm the new executive director. Native Angelino, born and raised in LA. And yes, I am a Dodger fan.
I'm Vicki Halliday, Venice resident.
Naomi Nightingale, Oakwood.
Good evening. My name is Juan Bernal, Venice native.
Hector Garcia, born and raised in Venice.
Marilyn Ramirez, grew up in Venice.
Takara Adair, third generation Venice.
There's one person who's not here this evening, we don't know why he's here. Randy Davis, who is the son of Vera Davis.
Give me 1 second, guys. I want to make sure I can capture all these comments. I'm going to try to record the meeting a bit.
Were you going to answer the question about Oakwood? The name change? You want to know?
Certainly. Certainly.
Our council member told us just this week that there was unequivocally, absolutely no name change.
So the name change was clearly based on, from what I can infer, right, looking way back 30 years ago when I was a teenager. From what I can see in the documents, it was just based on focusing the center's name on the community itself, instead of it just being called the Venice Library. So the Oakwood Junior Arts Center that's in the ballot measure, right, obviously before the center was named the Vera Davis McClendon Community Center, right? At that point, it didn't exist, right? So I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, please. Okay, so I guess I would like to know, like, why did that happen when it was our folks who voted on it in this neighborhood, right? It was our council office in this neighborhood. Now, but understand, like, even in my very first slide, I understand the issue, right? I'd much rather see this, if it has to have the name Oakwood in it, I'd rather see it labeled as the Oakwood Junior Arts Center at the McLaren, the Vera Davis.
I just want to state that the Vera Davis McClendon Youth and Family Center is a cultural, is a designated cultural monument. And so any name change, I don't think you could just, because there's
the building's character, the interest, or the fact that Ms. Vera Davis herself,
It's a history.
the building was named after her.
Why can't it be changed now? Well, are we stuck with this?
No, that's the other
The
thing,
name is
yeah.
not going to be changed, people, it's
Yeah.
official, it's going to remain Vera Davis, so we can pass that. I
Yeah,
promise you.
so why can't it be the Vera
It's
Davis
gonna
Center
say Vera Davis, it's not changed.
Oakwood Junior
We're-
Arts
we're-
Office.
at Oakwood?
It's Oakwood.
That-
We
that's
have a
a-
library named after a person.
No, and guess what?
Junior
Like,
Arts comes second under the name, that's part of our culture,
Yeah.
and this cultural affairs, we need to represent our cultures. Okay, so that's why it's Vera Davis, and we brought everyone in, we had everybody, all the different agencies in there, on a diverse set, so let's move on.
Understood. And I hear the need. I definitely hear it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we can move on only, but understand this. I definitely hear it. All right.
Okay.
No one's tied to the name. Our city attorney is not going to be tied to it. Right? We want to do this right.
We're tied to
I think
Vera
there's
Davis,
also, there are gonna be questions about whether this is completely tied to just the arts. That building, that facility provided services for this community that have gone wanting. The Helper Foundation, they have an arts component, but they also have a gang intervention component. Those things have been lacking here. It was where people went to get help with their taxes and all sorts of things. And that was yanked from this community for all this time without any explanation. And I think there is some anger, like, it
Rightfully
needs
so.
to be back and it needs to be helping the community it's in.
Understood. Rightfully so. All right. So let me catch this gentleman, and then that gentleman's right next to you. Go ahead, sir.
My name is Richard, I'm a golf fan. I grew up on West Washington Boulevard, which you know how I became. And I've been working with programs since the '70s. Every program we had at work was stolen from us and took from us by double. Let us show you how to do it, so it's how we mix them with push down. Been going on since '76. We're tired of it. We're tired of it. Made a statement, we don't want to stop the process, let us move on. And we let you move on until you can build it off. That's been happening our whole lives. We're tired of that shit, excuse my language, we're tired. Vera centers where we have full-size meetings, we got after school for the kids, we got Christmas parties, we got food giveaway, and everything that the community needs. If you take that, what do we have left? If you took everything, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What do we have left? That's all I gotta say.
You got it.
If I can speak on behalf of Venice 2000 DBA Helper Foundation. We came together nearly 27 years ago to address the needs of our community. And during that time is when Group Financial was CE11 representative. We was afforded space in the Vera Davis Center. And we've been there that length of time. We was promised that during the construction, once the construction is done, that we would be allowed to come back. Now we're being told that we gotta go through a process in order to come back. I think that's wrong, number one. Number two, I think the agencies that was in there prior to you all taking over should be grandfathered in, provided that these organizations like the Helper Foundation is still currently providing quality services to the Oakwood community. When I look around this room, I believe we're the only group that's still in this community that's been here providing quality services to Black and brown and white. So I'm hoping that we don't have to go through an RFP process or application process, even though we're willing to do it, but it should be some concession from the city stating what Mike told us. Mike made it clear that when the place is done, we will be allowed to come back. He didn't say it would be an RFP process. He didn't say it would be an application process. He said you guys will in fact be allowed to come back to continue providing services. And lastly, when I look at this budget and I think about all the taxes we pay, I think it's an injustice to this community that you come here and say that all this was done and it was a vote that took place, and that there was community involved. If I ask right now how many community folks was in the meeting on the front end dealing with Measure K, how many hands would go up? Because I know he wasn't notified about any community engagement meeting with the city of Los Angeles to determine whether or not this should even be considered a junior arts center. And lastly, we have enough art programs in Venice area. If they go down on Venice Boulevard, they have a Sparks program which deals with art. How about if they take all the art and services over there and let us continue to provide quality services out of the Vera Davis Center like we've been doing before all this time. So that's my 5 cents on that, man. I think, leaving this meeting today, I'm frustrated. Because yes, we had a conversation, but it wasn't substance.
Well,
So now that we're here, we see folks in the room, we can have transparency at the end of the day, we need to keep it. At the end of the day, when I say we, meaning the Health Foundation, need to keep it. At the end of the day, we have the capacity to manage the property. We have the capacity to continue to provide services along with other community-based organizations, provided that they're providing quality services. Because what we learned when we was in there, you had agencies in there that wasn't delivering. But on paper, they looked great. But they was afraid to walk into our community. So I would hope that we have a system to where we vet all the new organizations that's going to be trying to get space in Vera Davis. And then lastly, I hope that you guys study Vera Davis. Because if she was in this room right now, we'd probably get cussed out.
Really quickly, before I move on to, as you said, we had a conversation. Yes, we did. At that point, I had just become the Prop K program manager. Not that that matters anyway, right? So I'm taking on a bunch of new issues. And that issue was important to me to the point that we had a meeting with the council office, the CAO, the CLA, and the city attorney. And it said, and I wrote the report that said, this is how we need to move this forward by putting the Health Foundation back in. And they pushed me back.
Who is that?
So this being the folks who sit on the steering committee itself.
Give us a name.
I can give you all of that. That's not going to matter as much as you think it is, because you voiced your issue directly to CD, right, to the council office, right, and that's how we began to figure out a way, how do we get them in operations-wise without soul sourcing, right? So that's an operations conversation we're going to continue to have, absolutely. I think everybody in the room knows that you can deliver the services, but the ballot measure, and just to clear up a little bit of confusion, this is the first Prop K LV non-community engagement. As a matter of fact, I just found that out about 6 months ago. Now, how do we move a whole CDBG project worth several $1 million ahead and construct it and not have one engagement meeting, right? So they don't even have to answer that question. I'm already frustrated enough about that, right? So this is the first meeting that I see in the books. So this is the first interaction. So hear from you about this project as we move forward. The ballot measure that the engagement that I was thinking about 30 years ago in 1996, right? That's the engagement piece that I don't know, and there's no documentation on as to who was around, sat on those boards in 1996, and designated this the Oakwood Junior Arts Center, and that needed to be happening here at what was then called the whole Venice Island. So let me go around the room so I don't miss it. Yes, sir.
Back to the keep standing up.
Foundation. To me, it comes down to basically a needs and want. We need to be back in, Health Foundation needs to be back in the Vera Davis because there's a need in the community, but there's not a need for art and fashion. And this is the arts and fashion town. It's not arts and fashion on the beach. I remember years ago when you guys want to take the teen post from us, that's the first thing that you said, or we turn it to art gallery. I don't know if you know this or not, but there's a such thing that's called Artwashing. It's a stage of gentrification. You know what I mean? That's exactly what you guys are doing now because we were told that we were coming out of the Vera Davis because we reconstructed. They didn't say that they were turning into an art gallery and all this other stuff. We was told we were coming out because it was getting refurbished and getting redone. So if something's getting redone, I just hope that we come back in it. Now, as my executive director said, they have a spot right on Venice Boulevard. Why is it that was even considered? Why would you try to come to a place that already was serving the community? See, we were serving the community. Richard had Alcoholics Anonymous classes going on there. The black people, they had other resources going on there. Cover Foundation, we had everything going on. We had our food. We had schools. We had senior citizens out there. We had all that coming through. You know what I mean? So if you want to open this thing up, why wouldn't it be more on the morale scale? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, sometimes you gotta use morals. You know, these type of things. Morals and principles. So open this thing up and get with the people that were in already and make a little section for this artwork. You know what I mean? Maybe they can fit in with us instead of us fitting in with them, since we were there first.
Really quickly, I totally hear what you're saying. I like the concept. Just know that we didn't randomly choose that building and intend to interrupt the operations. It was the ballot measure. So the ballot measure, and overturn the ballot measure, it's not just a council vote, right? And as a matter of fact, I'll come back with the instructions and the process for doing that. Because
before the election, you do before the election next week.
I don't care about the election. This just period what the process is to overturn the ballot measure, period. Right. Yeah. So, and that's what we would be doing if we said, we're moving this to this other location. We have to overturn the ballot measure for that specific project.
So I'll just say this. I guarantee you, because I've been involved in this community for a very, very long time. I was here in 1996. I can promise you, if there was any inkling of a conversation of changing Vera Davis Center to an art center, you would have seen more people in this room. Matter of fact, they would have been in the gym. And there would have been an outcry against that. No question about it. So from my memory and from working on political issues in the community, because I also remember that changing the age limit for young people to be tried as adults from 14-year-olds was on the ballot as well. Also on the ballot was 3 strikes.
Yeah.
So I'm just telling you that if there was anything on the ballot that said Vera Davis Center will become an art center, it had to have been couched in language that did not alert this community as to what changes were being proposed as a result of Measure K or Prop K money.
Yeah, and again, like I said, I wasn't around, and I appreciate the history. I extremely appreciate the history, because this is not the first time that I've heard this about other Prop K projects around the city, right? Even needs that were once there that are no longer there, right? That they say, no, I don't want these restrooms here in my park anymore, right? So, and there's a process for that, right? But I believe that this Prop K project can benefit this building and the community and everyone's community needs at the same time. Right? So I thank you for the history again, and I'm going to move to the next person before I start running my mouth.
I think we had one question on the right in front.
Okay.
Jill, if you want to go first.
Yes. What I'm hearing and what you are hearing is this is a first meeting of how many meetings are we supposed to be having?
3 meetings.
3 meetings.
3 meetings.
So.
And as needed, right? Meaning if I have to come back and do 4 or 5, we'll come back. But those meetings will be about the project, right? Because the operations it's a community need, but resolving it in the manner that I'm hearing jumps into the politics of it.
Say that again?
It jumps into the politics of it, right?
Who makes the final decision? Is it the mayor or is the city level police department?
No, it's going to be it's going to have to be council at that point, right? In terms of how we get. Hear me out. No. Hear me out, guys. It's going to be council to determine how we shoehorn helper back into the facility. Right?
Say that again.
It will be council. It will be council to approve a sole sourcing of Helper Foundation back into the facility. That's not over. That's So that means
There is no RFP.
there's no RFP. We're choosing this person because of the community benefit that they have to the project, and that's how it's done. Right, and then, but that also, you know, will be a lease agreement, et cetera, that goes along with that. But that's the process to get that
The
happening.
RFP does ensure an equitable process, so the goal is that, you know, that sole source is not, it's not equitable, because there could be many different organizations that could serve this purpose.
I think that's part of the problem, is that
Well, I'm not saying that, I'm saying that
for it to
rather,
be equitable, helper should be.
but sole
They
source
have a right to
is,
return.
what I'm saying is sole source means that they are selected, they are just chosen, as opposed to a more, like a transparent and open process.
And that should be automatic for the agencies who was in there prior to leaving. Right, we have a lease agreement, right, so it should be a grandfather clause in the agreement that if these agencies are still providing quality services in this area, which we are, our staff is here, then we should be allowed that, right? Because we wasn't forced, we was told to. In other words, we didn't back up and say, I'm out of here. We was forced, we got over 500 signatures. So it should be a clause somewhere that the Helper Foundation should be allowed to come back.
And I'm not gonna cut you off, but I don't know, and I wanna get to a resolution on that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, but I think we need to have some conversation directly.
Thank you.
Because it's not just as simple as there's a clause, is there? Like I said, I want us to get to a resolution.
We're not taking nothing away from the other organizations that's currently servicing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, and I'm trying to go back to what Mike said. Yes, you guys will be allowed to come back. He didn't say, well, by the way, Helper Foundation, there's gonna be a RFP on the back end, there's gonna be an application on the back end, you guys are gonna have to qualify. He didn't say that. He said, yes, emphatically, yes. You guys will be allowed to come back after the construction is over. So just because we have a new council person, that should carry on. That agreement should carry on to the new representative.
Well, let me continue across the room, sir, and come to you, because they've been waiting quite a long time.
That's okay.
I just had a question. How do you guarantee, like organizations like the Oakwood Foundation that was already at the Vera Davis Center, how do you guarantee they're, be able to be back into that space?
That's the process we were talking about earlier, a sole source. That's the only way to guarantee.
A sole source?
Yeah.
What does that entail exactly?
That entails someone putting together a council report that directs the city of Los Angeles, right, and based on council approval, to set up
It's there.
It's set up where?
It was already there, under my bond, in the parquet. It was already written up, it's in there, if you look at it.
Okay, we'll talk about that, because I don't have any documentation, any Prop A documentation that establishes them to come right back into the facility, unfortunately.
Sir, when you started off your talk, you started Prop A, my question. What's the Prop A? Because you don't have an explanation of that, but now that you've mentioned it, when did it pass? And are you saying that Vera Davis was specifically identified in Prop A?
Absolutely. So, in the Proposition K, and you guys can Google this, the 1996 Proposition K ballot measure.
Was it a state measure, county, city?
City.
Huh?
I thought that was state.
It's a
State.
state,
It was
and
a
that's
state.
why people didn't realize.
Got it. And that's why that's why it's so hard to overturn. Okay. You sure? Okay.
So,
Okay. Well, really quickly, let me just answer this.
I'm newer to
Was it
the,
the city measure?
Well, here, just really quick, you can Google it.
I know I did.
Okay.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, so that's the measure that has it has a project list, and all the projects are specified on that if you go through the measure, and it calls out that building in this project.
so.
It does not mention the Vera Davis McClendon Center. It mentions the old Venice library. And so, how it got past people.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so please, yeah, let me get to this lady in the back, please.
A couple quick things. So it is sole source, right? This is not an RFP process moving forward?
No,
Okay.
no, I'm not saying that. We have not resolved that yet.
Okay.
Yes, go
So
ahead.
how will that be resolved?
That's what I'm saying, as you said, through a council vote. That'll have to be a council vote and a council vote.
I have a comment and then a question. The
Yep.
comment, agenda today for your committee, and it was the most anemic agenda I've ever seen.
I
One
believe
would
it.
have no idea what was going on tonight if you saw that agenda. So when we're talking about people who've been deprived of public outreach, I would just consider that. Also, you make no documents available, and it says on the agenda, if you want to see the documents, you have to go downtown and make an appointment with the Bureau of Engineering.
What?
Yeah.
It is on the agenda.
They were not available.
This has been a classic LA hide-the-ball move for decades, and I would strongly recommend with all this video equipment, Zoom, everything else, that if you had a PowerPoint, it would have been great for you to put it with the agenda so that people actually notice of what's going on. I just say that because this is gonna make your next 2 meetings way easier.
Well, no, but hear me out. I'm totally agree with you. Our project manager is not as tech savvy. We created an actual Google appointment, a Google Meets appointment that was also supposed to be distributed to the communities that people could view virtually, and that presentation is uploaded to that appointment. We will get it right next time and make sure all the flyers have the appropriate information so that everyone can join in and we need more people dialed in.
That would be great. Quickly, the measure was passed in 1996,
Yes.
right? It did not enumerate Vera Davis specifically. Later on, though, funds were allocated to the tenants of the Vera Davis Center. The city didn't say, oh, you can't get funding because you're at the Vera Davis Center and there can only be arts there. The city basically gave them the money, as I see kind of lip service, took the money, rehabbed the center, kicked them out, and now is trying to allocate more money under Prop K for Vera Davis. And I guess my question is, once you have built a specific purpose-built facility for the arts, how are you going to let other people back in? I mean, I just saw your PowerPoint, and it was all about dance studios, gallery space, which everyone has said we really don't need here. But everything is very purpose-built. And so I just find it a little disingenuous to come in and say that you need to take Prop K money to make this facility what you want it to be, and then what you want it to be is an art facility, and then once it's an art facility, we'll see if we can get the old tenants back in. So just explain that to me, because from your presentation, I'm not seeing how you're creating a space for the tenants to come back into.
So actually, the modular furniture that's currently there right now, I believe that was accommodating the previous tenants. And we're just basically upgrading that same modular furniture so that, again, there can be an entity existing there in that larger space, if need be, as well as an entity existing in the back in the two hard structure built
But I
office
guess
spaces.
my question is more, why do you need to take more Prop K funding to
And
rehab a building that's
it's-
already been rehabbed?
Well,
Ready to go?
because it needs to be, well, there needs to be a development of some classroom spaces. Right now, there aren't many actual spaces that you can operate solely and run one program out of. It's all open to each other, right? So even if another community entity wanted to come in and do some things in that space, these improvements are going to assist in that. The diagrams you saw, the floor plans you saw, is still a flexible program, which is why we're not putting a bunch of stuff, hard-built elements in the larger gallery space. It's a gallery space, but it's also any and everything else this community needs.
Yeah, it's hard to swallow that when next to us we have Google, which is one of the biggest companies in the world that operates on a completely open corporate footprint. So it doesn't really make sense. But the other question.
Well, look, not every program works that way. As an architect, I can tell you how many offices that I've walked into trying to push the open space programming, and it doesn't work for the way they work. Right? So you can, the Hulu office is great. Guess what? They have like $500 headsets on, so you can't hear each other in teleconferences. I don't have that in my office in office space, so I hear the guy 5 cubicles away on his call and my call. So, like, I definitely hear you, but we have to design it so that spaces can operate independently.
The other question I had is, if this is a special purpose built building, which I see is going to be, and it's obviously being steered toward the arts, what's the city's plan to house the former tenants if they don't end up in this building? Like, what's the backup plan? Is there another facility in Venice? Has the city identified another space?
Well, I think that was probably the conversation that happened when the Helper Foundation left, or was forced out, right? We don't.
Forced out.
Right. But we don't have that space. We don't have allocated that. We haven't identified it.
So, I mean, can the
Well,
city identify it? I feel like.
Well, let me hear me. Again, we're getting off topic from the project to lease agreements, right, and operations. And if there's a lease agreement, as the gentleman said, if there was a lease agreement in place when you left, and that should have captured that clause, as you said, that allowed you to relocate back in the building, that's the information we need to dig up to get you back into the building,
I
right?
think it's more though that the city took their funding.
Well, they didn't take their funding. The CDBG was for the building itself. But based on the operators who are operating in their needs. So there's this beautiful line of, in those same spaces where we have infrastructure for data and computers that are shown in the diagram, there's a desk already there that's covering that whole desk that was to accommodate the entities that were there before. So we certainly were accommodating the previous tenants, that why they weren't allowed back in is something that we need to really recover and resolve. Next, please.
I'm not going to talk about the process you're talking about putting through is so easily turned into a placebo. So when you talk about how it can't be the sole source because we need an open and transparent process for them to get back in, at the end of that process, you need to be selecting something. So all we're doing is removing that placebo process and putting the people that belong in the space back into their space. For you to tell us now that we do have a new council person, that what the old council person said to him is kind of invalid, he's not here, we don't have documentation, you should have had a clause. That makes us feel like how much can we then trust a council person that we're speaking to now about things? As far as being transparent, we're saying that we did list this building, and what we said in Tupac K, but we didn't say that it was a Vera Davis center. That was either an oversight that should not have been made at the top of what you're looking at, because you're not just looking at the old Venice library at that point, not in '96, definitely not today. This particular community, and this is just from, and I didn't, everyone introduce himself, Jason Sugar's born here, like my mom and her father and his mom. This particular community has a long, and my man over here mentioned it, a long history of you guys building stuff for some other community that doesn't actually need it and isn't yet here. We have art here. There was art here when you guys started moving here in the 80s and 90s. You were already doing it, we're still doing it. You're building an art center, what you're talking about building doesn't sound like it would serve this particular community. It's not something that we need at all, is all I was saying.
I just want to remind you guys too, at the end of the day, what all of this is that you just did is the exact example of gentrification and erasing black people from their neighborhood. And you guys may not know this, Sean, you may not know this, Mary, yep. This is the only intentional community for black and brown people on the entire 740-something miles of California coastline. This is the only area where we all coexisted and we were allowed to be. And by taking the name and taking the center and taking helper and taking the services and not giving us any transparency about anything that's happening, that is literally coming in and erasing black history, which has been done time and time again, specifically in Oakwood, to both the black and brown communities. Now I'm going to say this also, I'm going to say this to Sean specifically and Marion in the back. Your councilwoman, Sean, came to our BNC meeting last week and bold-faced lied to our face about this name change. We want transparency.
How do you figure?
She said that.
How do you figure?
You could get defensive, but she.
No, I'm just asking you a question.
Sean, let her finish.
I'm sorry, I need to.
She lied and said there was no name change. I recorded the whole thing.
Yes, we're quite adamant that there should be no name.
No, not that there shouldn't. That there was none.
What do you mean?
And honestly, when it comes, can you let me finish, Sean? When it comes to the black and brown community and meetings of such importance to everyone in this room that are ready to light your ass on fire for this, I would appreciate if you would stop leaning in half-assed through a doorway and come sit down with the community that is fighting for these spaces. And you can take that.
I'm gonna say that I'm gonna stand.
What I want you to know, it's Take it back to Tracy Park, how the whole community feels and who we want in there. And we are sick of the flippant lies that come into these meetings and won't even answer questions. Come in and deliver a speech and don't even have 1 minute of public comment. It's enough.
Okay.
We're all sick of it.
So let me just answer you now, if that's all right. First off,
I'll post a video.
We don't have time.
you don't have to post the video. I was there many people.
I was there,
We all know.
We all were there.
Yes.
What
Our
did you
office
say?
has directed these departments that there should be no name change.
Not that there shouldn't, that there wasn't.
There wouldn't be.
I mean, we're at the very top of this process. I can't help the materials they arrived with today, but we have had communications with them where we said the name should remain. I don't know what else you want.
Can you make sure the help?
The name will remain.
Yeah, we want
It's
to
my
name
understanding
will
I've had some
remain.
communications with our office,
The
so.
name will remain.
Can we get my understanding
All right,
I've had some
all right.
communications.
Got it.
No, sir.
Haven't you? Okay.
No.
We will sort that out. In the meantime, to answer your question,
We'll sort that out when, what does that mean? Yeah.
we will have a conversation with your since.
We've had time.
All right, guys. So, again, this has been an issue that has been festering, right? Festering. Now, every time I type in the name of this project, I sit there and read all of what the community is mad about this project. As a person who's from LA, the other side, the south side of LA, who's I can't even move into my old community. I can't afford to move into my old community in Leimert Park, Crenshaw District. Trust me, I feel you on the gentrification, okay? So, but understand, taking an asset away is not a good thing for your community as well. The plans that we're going to design is still going to make this a flexible space. Again, so that any entity can come in, and more importantly, even, sir, when we were talking about the Helper Foundation way back in the day, as we were talking, I was sketching out how we could create the spaces so that each entity, LRO and your group, could come back in, right? That's actually the same approach. We still needed to create designated beautiful spaces for you to have an office and a room to operate out of, them to have an office and room to operate off, and then the large gallery for you guys to share in operations, however you were going to do it, right? Now what it's really sounding like is that we're really adding in the arts component, but we have to do that in a manner that it won't get challenged, it won't get removed, it will be a permanent fixture, and the history of this facility will remain as it should be.
Why can't Helper run the arts program?
We have the capacity.
They have the capacity. No, we've talked about that.
It can be your arts then.
And that's what we were just talking about, the sole source process, right?
Get all this in writing.
So let's move to the next question, and then I'm going to come back to the yes, ma'am. We're at the beginning of design for this next phase.
Which condition is the building in right now?
It's beautiful. It's completed. Like the retrofit is done, the structural is done, finishes are done, floor is done, HVAC, everything is done and ready for us to. And that's why I'm pressing. Get this done.
What date are you in?
And get this back to the community. No, these monies have not been spent. This is what's remaining to be spent after several $1 million have already been spent to upgrade the facility. Yeah.
So you have two
Okay.
questions.
Yeah.
My name's Jane, I've lived here 80 years in Venice, do everything. My family's been here since the 20s. Okay, Vera Davis did so much for the community. She stopped evictions, she had food, she helped them with water and power, with gas, just like Pearl White, and Mrs. Chavez, that nobody down here probably remembers, Jatan. All the people that did things for Venice with not getting paid. Okay, when you see writing on the wall, you don't call 311, you call Helper. You call Venice 2000 when they were there. When somebody living in a $3 million house has an alcohol problem, who do they go for? Richard, for NA. We don't have a football team anymore, so they can't be at the Vera Davis Center. I'm all for art. The kids need art. The adults need art. They need to learn to read and write, but they also have to have places that they can go to for help. Because nobody is, well, whatever you say, everybody has problems. No matter how much money you have. No
house sell for $9 million. You're still in Venice. And we need all the things that come with art. We need the children to appreciate it, but we also appreciate Vera Davis and Roberta and the old Nat, the old Lou Cap, Michael Jackson. They were on Abbott Kinney on the corner in Joey Baker's property when they first came to Venice. And then she got to use the property over here. But they have to understand, she stopped people from being evicted. She helped them with water and power. She went to landlords, she went to water and power and had them, can you just wait a little while? You'll get a check on Friday. They'll make payments to you. They were so helpful down here. You can't erase what she did. Same thing for helpers, like I said. When the writing's on the wall, and I'm sure everybody knows there's writings on the wall. We don't call everyone. Who do we call? Do we want to be the ones that when our children or grandchildren walk out there that get shot? I already lost a grandson. Or not even gang violence. Because they said it wasn't gang violence. But it's been 23 years. And nobody's ever spoke up. Still has a reward out. What do they do about all that? We need organizations like them because they can stand in and they can go talk to other neighborhoods that are tagging down here or people that are tagging down here. That's defacing all the people that live down here and feel threatened. Well, I mean, I don't. I know other people do. And that's something that we need, those type of resources. Just because you have a couple $1 million home, you still need to be and feel safe. And I'm sure everybody feels that way. It doesn't matter where you live. Of course, I couldn't live anywhere, but I could live down here when nobody wanted to live down here. Let's put it that way. Nobody wanted to live down here. Rent is $50 a month. And you bought a house for $5,000. You can't even rent a garage for that. Like I said, for Venice, for everybody who's here. I don't care what color you are. You are welcome at my house, what religious you are, and how much money you make. That doesn't make any difference to anybody that has a heart for Venice. And that's what's most important, is the people who want to live here because they want to, not because they had to back in the day. Look at the canals. That was Hell's Angels all over there. The end of Westminster on the protocol. Those were the Hell's Angels and the straight Satans. Nobody could walk on that side of the street. They had coffins in their room. I mean, how intimidating is that? But we've come a long way since the 60s. And we're a better place. But without people like them, we aren't going to feel safe. We aren't going to let our kids walk home. And look, we don't have a bus anymore, so they have to walk to Mark Twain and Venice. So we're going to let little girls, even boys, that are that young to walk through the neighborhood if we don't have somebody to help protect them. And I'm not saying the police don't do it. I haven't seen the police cars in the road. Whenever we have problems, back in the day, then we used to see them, we could hear them. They didn't have Priuses. They stopped. And I could hear them say, oh, there's one going around the corner. And they scream, oh my God, if they hear fireworks, they're yelling, shots, they're coming out in Venice. There are 10 dogs that's been dumped down here. I have one of the rescued 5 days, and they're euthanized. So why do they drop them down here? They think we're all going to be good-hearted and keep the dogs? Because when you take them to the animals, they say 5 days. We can't promise anything. It's 5 days, that's the date. That's all I have to say. I'm still living here.
So, you know, we could do all the RFP, we could do all of that, we could do CPRAs for the public record, we can figure out what the emails were and all that. So before the second meeting, then perhaps we can bring copies for the community
others who don't use computers and such. With all due respect, this is tailored for people who can shop at Blix and not think twice about the materials they need to do their art. We have a lot of trust fund people over here and a lot of free time on their hands as parents because they put their kids over here at all day at the playground. We're talking about people who take advantage of other people, and they're not in this room. They're not even at the NC because they've already made their deals to completely gentrify Venice. So it would be nice to know that you have a timeline for this RFP and put it in writing and give it to Helper and all the other organizations that want to make it transparent step by step. Because what I know, having worked at Venice High School and also having a daughter that's born and raised, that school has closed so many opportunities for the youth that we could bring back clay, bring back real photography, bring back woodwork, and upholstery. I mean, there's things that at hand that is beyond artistic. It's culture-based and it's generational. So right there, I wouldn't even. I talked to the baseball team, the football team. I talked to their families because they know what has been erased from the school and the opportunities for the youth, let alone Helper. Whatever we need to do to assist that process, right here, you have people who are on their board and you have people who will definitely write a letter of recommendation and whatever else. But the process has to be transparent. And the name should be Oakwood Junior Arts Office because the center denotes that you're erasing Vera Davis McClendon. And you have family members here, multi-generational right here. You have an alternate that's sitting right here who, if there's an empty seat, should be seated at that table. That's what I have to say. And thank you for your patience and your time. It's not going to be easy, but it will be an easy process if you have it in writing and you have a timeline. It would be greatly appreciated. Greatly.
Sure. Now, let's be specific. When you talk about timeline, you mean the timeline moving forward?
Yes. Timeline for the process of when you're going to release the RFP, what the process is, how long that's going to go, who's going to review, if it's going to be the committee here, and basically we should dig deep. We can help you dig deep on grandfathering because that would be honorable. That would be in defense of who's been here before, and it would be definitely to protect the integrity of our community. Help us bring them back. They have a right to return, let alone Victory Outreach for AA and NA.
Okay.
Right off the top of my head, but Venice High School has a lot of art that they raised. We had a gymnastics team, and that's a whole nother program. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I understand that's citywide, right?
Yeah.
Which is why we've been really pushing to get the junior art centers going and to be more open so that they become spaces for them because so much has been taken out of all the public schools.
all I know is next door at the Electric Lodge, we have a lot of white people doing African dance on Saturday mornings, okay? So that's how it is. This program right here is built, it's built for people that aren't in the room, who can afford the luxury of time to bring their kids to a program that's not for any working parent.
Well, the way we were saying this, like as an after-school function as well. So this is not just, I mean, that's what I'm saying. This has always been dialing in all of that community need that was there before, outside of those specific things that they were doing, the gang intervention, that really aren't the responsibilities of a junior art center. Right?
So can I say one thing about the proposition, because you mentioned that the listing that the Vera Davis Center was not on the list for the.
It's not called the Vera Davis Center.
Not called the Vera Davis, it's called the Venice Library.
Exactly.
So let me just say that the Venice Library is on Venice Boulevard.
The old Venice Library.
No, the new Venice Library.
No, I understand.
Yeah, okay, but the proposition came out in 1996. The library was opened in 1995. So when they said Venice Library, even if it was on the ballot, people understood Venice Library on Venice Boulevard, not the Vera Davis Center that used to be called the Venice Library. I just want to say that kind of manipulation, that kind of trickery, that
It's called hiding the ball.
Right, exactly like the lady back there said, hiding the ball. That if people were going to vote for something for the Venice Library, they definitely weren't thinking about the Vera Davis Center that was previously the Venice Library. Because now, for everybody that talks about going to the Venice Library, they're talking about the Venice Library on Venice Boulevard.
Yep.
We have meetings there all the time. Where's your meeting? At the Venice Library. So I just wanna, for the officials, for the elected officials, and for those people that are holding up the proposition as an elected thing that they can't just overturn because it was a ballot measure and people voted for it. Yes, understand that it was not clear about what people were voting for, if that is the reason that they're using to continue to support any changes in the Vera Davis.
Got it. All right, so really
Very
quick.
short.
Go ahead.
Why the pushback? Why would it need to be changed? Why any pushback?
The pushback for,
On the name change.
oh, I literally have none.
But
Yeah, no, I literally have no pushback. The name as designated, because that's what was in the ballot measure, right? But I have no, and I don't think Cultural Affairs doesn't have any issue with it keeping the moniker, right? I need to figure out how I can get Oakwood in there somewhere, right? Just so I can tie it to the ballot measure and let them know this project, the money was spent the appropriate way, completed the task, followed the ballot measure, completed the job, right? But what the facility should be known as is what it should be known as to you, right? It's your facility, right? So you won't get a whole lot of hesitation from us. The only thing I may come back and report back is issues I'm having trying to push it down the city attorney's throat. If I do run into that. If I do run into that, but I doubt that. The bigger issue that I've already run into resistance on was sole sourcing to help a group back into the facility. So that's the conversation we're going to continue to have and we're going to resolve. Now, here's my promise to this group. The Prop K ballot measure requires 3 LV knock meters based on the project, right? That's the design and construction of the project, right? We're gonna have at least one entire LV knock meeting, probably towards the end, all about operations. And what it's gonna do is gonna capture all the work we've done from here to there to resolve that issue. Working with the council office, mayor's office, CAO, CLA, whomever it takes to get us to that point. So at the LV knock meeting number 4, we're all on the same page as to how it has to move forward. You might not like it, you might not like it, but that may be the only path forward in terms of making sure there's a way to get this entity and other entities who are directly involved into the building back into the building. Okay? We go here and then I'm gonna come back with it. All right.
So, just some clarification.
Yes.
When was it decided that this would be a junior arts center?
1996.
Okay. And it took this long for it to become what it's gonna be?
Oh yeah, well, you know what, I didn't go through the Proposition K. I breezed by it a bit because we were all running late. The Prop K ballot measure collected roughly $350 million over 30 years for the design and construction of cultural arts facilities and recreational facilities. So some of the larger recreation parks and small park improvements and cultural arts improvements you've seen around the city were initiated by this ballot measure. Now, a question that often comes to me is like, well, how are y'all just getting to my project 28 years later?
That's part of the question.
Right, and that is something I honestly can't answer. As someone who was not managing the program for 20 years, just jumped into this 3 or 4 years ago, I've heard this question before because we're at the end of the program now. And then matter of fact, and I'm not whining here, they somehow left all these difficult projects for me at the end of the program, right? And moved on these other ones, right? Things that were easy to accomplish, but still needed to be accomplished for any and every community all throughout LA.
Okay.
Not
follow-up question, for the Helper Foundation, was your lease broken? Was it? Was it broken? Like your lease came to an end?
It never came to an end.
Was there an end date on that lease?
No.
No,
There's always an end date on leases.
there was no end date.
Really? Okay, that's helpful to know, because with RFPs, there is a expectation that there is equitability. That I'm surprised that there was no end date on the lease, because I'm aware of that.
No.
Oh, it was renewed, okay.
Well, so, hold on, just,
Wait,
let me ask, were they renewing year by year?
Yeah.
And so you didn't get like a 5-year, 10-year? So, okay, we'll talk, you got it.
The only reason I bring that up is because, and I don't know about city properties, but I know in the nonprofit work that I've done, like, even if I've been having a contract for years and we've been doing a wonderful job, I still have to reapply and open it up to everyone and anyone else, even if we've done an amazing job. So it's helpful to know that, because I mean, if this is what the community wants, then that's what we're going to advocate for as a volunteer committee.
Yeah, the problem is the way they did it, the way they.
I understand. No, I understand that. Well, that's helpful too.
On a $1 lease. So you can go ask them if they have to renew their lease.
Yeah, they should.
They've been there.
Yeah, no, you should have to renew your lease year by year or whatever that term is.
The lease was automatically renewed with the funding, so for every year that they were funded, the lease was included in the budget for that
Okay.
year,
So,
Well, are we talking the CDBG funding or which funding were we
we're
talking?
talking about the Helper Foundation funding.
Okay, so that's prior to the design construction of the CDBG project.
So just to clarify, I believe that this group here is meant to be the local folks volunteering to oversee the process. So as a person who runs a nonprofit here, what I'm hearing is you want the Helper Foundation back in the Vera.
Services that we.
Okay, but I think the challenge with the additional services, and I'm not advocating, I'm just getting clarification, is that because Prop K funding was utilized for the refurbishing of this facility, it has to be arts focused. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the workaround is that, hold on, the workaround is that, number one, advocate for a sole source situation where the Helper Foundation is the provider. And then number two, that as part of that, arts needs to be a part of what they do, which they are doing it already. And then that will allow for the additional services that the community is saying is needed to come back. Does that make sense?
And while that does make sense, I totally agree with you. The purpose of this committee is not to make that.
Correct. No, I'm aware of that.
Okay, I just want to make that be clear, so you guys don't get, you guys need to make this decision, but
No, we're not.
they don't have the power to make that. We will capture all the comments, all the community concerns, which has already been, it's been expressed to the powers that be. But we will continue to do so until we get to a resolution on how we run the operations, right? But again, they're advising this process, right? So, as a matter of fact, very soon, as we're hoping to get to, we need to vote for a committee president.
Pardon me? I didn't hear that.
Just a good warning, we will have to vote for a committee, you guys will have to vote for a committee president very shortly. But so just sort of getting back to the issue of separating the operations from the LVNOC process, which is about the construction of the project itself. Again, we're going to design this in sort of, I believe it was misstated that this was going to be a focused building where every room was designated special on art. The only room that tentatively was going to be limited a little bit was the room that was going to be for dance. and performance arts, right? And that's, you know, that's a conversation for the community about, and once again, getting back to arts programming, which is really the purpose of this meeting, was to hear about the types of arts programming. Now, I get it, we want our community services back in the building. I get that.
Not arts and dance, not
Right.
dance.
But let's consider the options where the helper group is back in and they have an arts component that they're running. Right? Now, what kind of component would that be? And that's based on, as Lisa was saying, what's already in the area that you don't need a replicate of? What don't you have? Do you have that maker space in the area for our Black and brown young brothers and sisters who need to come and build on that talent and not the same talents we're oftentimes seeing as building on, so our physical dancing and artistry, right? There are other things that this community needs and that these young people and intergenerational artists need that can be provided as part of this resource. No, we're going to dial in the culture. We're not missing the culture.
It's for our culture, you know, don't tell you about the community, but the blacks and browns that are here, those are the things that we had set up for us, our elders, our children, okay?
Yep.
You're the programming,
So, the thing is, everything's strategy. The agency was there to provide for the elders and the youth, the brown and blacks in this community. And now everybody wants to come in and pick and tear and choose and tell us what to do. We know what we need, we're gonna provide it for us, we know what we need, you know? So that Boys and Girls Club, they need all kinds of stuff, but this is Vera Davis. This is for the elders that couldn't get out and go anywhere. This was located where it was convenient for our elders and our youth that were under distress. We were in crisis. Venice helps us, and Venice 2000 are mediators. When there's unrest or whatever, they're the ones that are out there on the front line. We call them because it falls on deaf ears. You understand? That's what they're here for. We chose them. I don't understand what the problem is helping our culture in our community.
Right.
You know, you want to bring all your friends in, rich friends that don't live here, and they took all the programs and brought their kids down here and pushed all the local kids out of the programs. Okay? I'm also a board member of Venice Arts. I mean, I was co-founder, I'm going to pick the name traditionally, me and B.Y. Thomas. Okay, but that's a different story. Number two is, these guys grew up here in the community. You understand?
Oh, yeah.
They know what's going on around here. Look at these people here, look at us. Nobody pays attention to us. It's about our culture, not nothing else in our community that works for us. Other people come here, they come in, they gentrify it, that's fine. But we still have our ways. There will always be our ways.
We're still here.
And we're still here. But that center was placed there with the help of the city to provide for us because we're a unique community. Our kids could not go anywhere else because they were in danger. You understand? Our kids not paying attention to school because you stop the buses from coming here. But the point is, listen to what we're telling you what we need. We don't need no dance over there. We need our rules back, our agencies that were placed there, handpicked through the community, for the community. In that center, not what LA everybody else thinks we need. We know what we need here. Work with us, that's all we're asking. And be transparent about it. We have to go through all this hell, but you guys want to use us to get city money and all that other kind of stuff, and then you take the money, you get the licenses, you go, we don't see you no more. Now we stuck here again.
Well,
I'm not fussing at you, but
I know.
falling on closed ears.
No.
Ms. Parks needs to sit down and meet this community again.
She needs to be here.
Or else it's going to be a big problem. She didn't have a problem coming down here, she wanted our vote. Okay, all right, that's what I said.
No, I appreciate you saying. I appreciate all of y'all saying. As we know, this is a larger issue than just this community, just this city, just this state, right? So
That's a historical landmark. What are you trying to bump and knock it all down for? It's perfect the way it is. We made it work. You give us that budget to see what we can do for them, like we have before. We go back and explain that to them and see how you're gonna write it in there without no hidden agendas in there. We're being straightforward with you guys. You understand?
No, I understand.
Okay.
I understand. No, and I've been, that's been communicated to me straightforwardly since the very beginning, that I got involved in this issue.
I'm not going for it. I'm sick and tired of it. You got a beautiful community here. Work with us. people that don't give a damn about us one way or
So,
another.
so in that same vein though,
Yeah. Okay.
in that same vein, you recognize that we need compromise.
Yeah, we know our culture better than anybody else.
So, no, I hear you on that,
Cultures.
right? So, but
And
as I was saying earlier,
You know that.
yeah, no, but as I was saying earlier, as you mentioned, there's a large arts community here, right? And we don't need the same art component replicated here. What I've noticed since I'm telling on myself, early 1990s days as a graph writer myself, over the last 15 years, the graph culture has come back super strong. And when I was writing at the time, what began to happen is that with the 3 strikes, et cetera, they began to start taking us to jail and to fire camps. You got caught writing 2 or 3 times, et cetera, right? So we know that there's a culture for us in our arts, in our street art, and we need a positive place to express it. Otherwise, we find ourselves in a negative space. And a lot of those people that I knew back then, they now have, and I'm not gonna list the crew names, they now have legitimate businesses teaching and as muralists in the same areas on the walls that we were writing on. What's up?
You say WCA, we know.
WCA? No, it's KWS.
West Coast. Oh.
Yeah, so.
I have a question though.
Yep.
You mentioned the makerspace and it's also going down.
Yep.
You gotta stand up. Oh, all right. The wife teaches entrepreneurialism at Garden High School. I mentioned that in the makerspace thing because it seems it's something that they could fold into their services. And it is an arts thing that you've already put in your program that would allow people to learn things that are more gearing art towards a way to make a living, gearing arts towards things that are more useful. We don't have trade schools anymore, but these kids want to rebuild sneakers and different things. I saw what you had up there. But these are all things I keep seeing where there's like not a confluence, where it seems that if you have a budget to have art, you want art. That money could be used to support what they're doing, including staff specific for arts who are with them while they're doing what they're doing. Maybe you guys pay 2 people to handle that component of what they're doing while they take care of the business of the community needs. Because we need, I'm not complaining about, I'm an art lover, dear God. We don't need that as much as we need all of us to start getting back together. We had some troubles down here, bro.
Yeah.
We actually need a little regrouping. And I don't think that an art center that would work just as well in a newly gentrified Highland Park or newly gentrified Echo Park is gonna get down there in Venice, not Venice Beach, because I know everybody, Manhattan Beach on the end like Manhattan Beach and Hermosa. We're Venice. We don't need to be turned into the next city over. It's right there. We want Manhattan Beach. It's not far.
Yeah.
You want to do something you do in Hollywood, it's just over there. You
Yeah.
have special needs here. I'm not saying they have to be in because of a clause, because of a renewable. They have to be there because we need them.
Yeah.
There's issues that come up in this particular little community of 1.1 miles that a lot of our families didn't make it to. And I don't know that an art center where the Vera Davis Center belongs is going to help us. That's all.
I got you. So again, eloquently expressed. Totally hear you. Where's our compromise so we can get this done and get this project back to the community?
Well, can I just share, I mean, that's where my role is to listen to what's going on and to translate that to the arts programming that you want to see. So if you want to see graffiti arts or, or economic arts or, I'm an artist too, and no one told me how to be an artist, and now I'm an arts administrator instead of an artist. So that kind of, I'm not allowed to say workforce development, but economic development, creative development, those kinds of skills that are necessary for our young artists, I think that should be a part of that, and it sounds like you all are saying very similar things. So if you can help me to understand what those needs are, I'm hoping that's where the compromise can come in, and we can figure out how to make all of this happen together. But I need to understand from you all, not this moment right now, but as we're going through this process, what those needs are particular to this community. Every art center we have is particular to the community and the cultures too. This is a unique culture, a unique community in this space, and this art center should reflect that. So.
Yeah, and again, that's why that presentation had any and every type that we can think of. For example, over in those same neighborhoods, I'm working on a project called Slauson Connect Recreation Center. It's a Prop K project. We're dialing in a digital media arts into their after-school program, right? And this is right, and so that's what I'm saying. That's the art component you want, because that's what you think is going to translate and really help the community, right? And that's what we go after. That's what we program for, while leaving flexible spaces. I say this again, while leaving flexible spaces for other options. No, I wanted to also address that. This again.
What's the question?
Is there an operations budget? This is about design and construction. Right. This is not an operations budget. No. As far as money that I'm managing, I'm an architect. We manage the design and construction. We don't. And so that's the other side of the operations conversation that we're going to have again in our future. I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
I have a few clarifying questions about the RFP process. What city agency is this?
Cultural Affairs.
Department of Cultural Affairs. So has an RFP process taken place already, or is it not?
No, so as I understand it, what will happen, the community conversations that we have will develop the criteria for that RFP. So however long this process takes, then we'll come up with the RFP, and that is what will go out to the community. And so all the organizations who, hopefully will reflect those criteria will then be, there's a panel that will review those RFPs, and then that panel will select the
So the Lower Foundation could be involved?
Yes, of course, they can.
Absolutely.
That's all.
So you said it's a sole source, but I don't know if you paid attention, but are there multiple organizations that in that space or that work?
So right now, the previous tenants have not expressed the need to want to come back. Latino Resources Group, we reached out to them as we're working on another project with them, and they expressed that they do not want to come back. They were looking at other.
So does that mean that other organizations that are grassroots in Venice are able to apply for the RFP?
If they have an arts focus within their program.
So how many organizations do that?
We are not seeing this as an entity that's taking on multiple organizations. We're seeing this as one organization, right, that provides the benefits that the community needs.
Why can't it be previously before where there was multiple organizations?
Well, so there's a couple of different caveats, and I'm going to hear some disagreements on this. One of the issues that we've seen at some other youth arts centers is that combining different entities in the same building became difficult to manage, especially with young children. Right? So again, we'll iron out those details in the RFP so that we can address all of that at that time. But that's one of the issues that Cultural Affairs and General Services Department has had with leases, different leases in the same building and operating in that manner. Now, what they would prefer, GSD especially, would prefer there be one large lease entity, right? Hypothetically, the helper group, right? That's managing the junior arts component, their own issues, their own benefits, other community benefits, and then bringing in someone under them, right, to be part of that, the part of the community organizations that come in. GSD does not want to partition that out in the manner that it was previously. And this is not just this building, this is all across the city.
Okay, and then who makes the final decision? Because I was told that this committee is just facilitating your meetings, but who's gonna partake in the final decision making of the RFP? Who's gonna go in those spaces? And who's gonna go in that space?
So that's gonna be with Cultural Affairs, and that'll be a separate process. That's not a requirement of the LV NOC meetings, right? Because we're about design and construction, not the operation. And so I have to that's why I keep reiterating, separating that, so we can get this asset back, right, while we work on this issue and resolve this issue. We have time. We still have to design it and construct it, right? So we have time to resolve how we're getting the requested community groups back into the city.
We have an opportunity to be on that panel, so it's transparent.
So the panel that panel because that takes away the, the child equity of it. So, we haven't talked about who would be on that panel, but neutral parties.
But it would be open to us.
The panel of,
Our process.
Yeah, we want
We want transparency and accountability.
Yeah.
Sure, no, we understand. So the way that the process works is the city develops the RFP, and the RFP will be based on the input that we receive from you all. Then we as a department will put together a panel. The panel is a closed process, so this is how that this works with, basically we have to follow the city's procurement rules. We have to follow the city's, purchasing is the wrong word, but we have to follow the city's process to be able to bring on a service. So the city's process requires there to be a panel discussion, a panel that is selected, and that panel will then make a decision. So the panel will be representative of the community, and the folks that we, through our work with the community, and Lisa's going to be working closely with you all as we go over the next several years, or several years, I don't know exactly how long we are right now, to help develop who those potential people could be to be able to provide that input.
And you'll give us that information as practice.
Absolutely.
Okay.
If it's, it has to go up.
I have a concern on this RFP that's coming out. As you all heard, there's several art organizations in Venice who really specialize in whatever art they specialize in. What's the likelihood, because of that kind of record, that these folks get this RFP, make it look great in black and white, but don't deliver the services to the Oakwood community? One question. Second, to just to go on the record, the Health Foundation has been providing art services from inception. We are in business with the city. We've been in business since 2009. We are currently the grid provider. We have our senior director who represents the grid on behalf of the mayor in the room, who's also one of the founding members of the Health Foundation. And I hope we hear from him shortly. But a big concern is coming up now that I'm hearing this RFP process, because you do have art agencies all around Venice. And if they see that RFP, they're gonna probably put their bid in too. So what's the likelihood of us not even qualifying?
Well, I think, I think that it's, again, we put together the RFP, so just so that you have a little bit more of a sense of what we do. So our community art division has several art centers throughout the city, and we currently have 3 or 4. 4. We have 4 partner centers. So we have 4 centers that are operated and that we've put out an RFP process. And those entities that are serving are representative of the communities that they're in. So I think that it's really important as we do this, again, to hear from you, to hear from the community about what it is that the community wants to see in this art center, to be able to understand so that as we put together what this RFP will look like, the RFP will have that information and structured that way. So what I can hear is the challenge with this type of process. We can't promise that any one entity will be able to be in it. What we can do is we can continue to work with you to help figure out exactly what it is that the community needs to be able to help support and make sure that those needs are in that RFP that will then provide.
So I think that priority should be given to Black and brown grassroots organizations, native from Venice, that have been doing community work in Venice, and that have been displaced by gentrification. So that would mean help, should get priority. Thank you. And most people agree here.
Yep.
Hi, Steve Williams. I actually grew up on roads here in the community. I'm on the Oakwood Council Land Use Planning Committee. And I just have a quick comment and then a couple of quick questions. I want to direct towards the gentleman in the white striped shirt in there. You're with Venice Arts, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm just trying to understand your perspective, already doing the work, right, with youth, doing arts and
Not in Oakwood.
It's on Lincoln, right? It's on Lincoln.
On the beach.
So thank you for saying that was one of my questions. So what I was gonna ask you was, at what capacity are you with your programming? Like in your perspective, how bad do we need another arts and youth facility in Venice? So my second question was, what percentage of the youth you work there are from this community?
So I mean, part of it is me just listening to what the community is asking about and or what they want. I'm here as I was invited by the Department of Cultural Affairs to be on this committee. So honestly, I'm just here to listen, and if what I'm hearing is that, you know, the community wants Helper Foundation, then that's what I'm gonna advocate for. I personally have no interest in competing. We're here to collaborate. That's what, as a grassroots arts leader myself, having served all over LA, including MacArthur Park, Highland Park, which, trust me, I understand about gentrification, and I can't afford to live in these neighborhoods myself. So I have to commute from outside this area to come work here. So my goal is to listen to what the community is saying and advocate on behalf of what the community is asking.
Are the kids in your program from here?
There, 95% of the young people that we serve are from under-resourced communities, including Venice, but we serve all of LA County.
And another part of this process, we've done this before, in other areas of the city. I'll talk with Venice Arts, I'll talk with other arts organizations, other arts leaders, and find out what they're offering and like what times they're offering. We want to complement the things that are going on. So, if there are things that are being offered by Venice Arts or not being offered by Venice Arts due to capacity, whatever that is, we would try to, serve that need.
So it sounds to me like Venice Arts might even be under the radar, connecting with the people that's trying to take over the Vera Davis.
That's
Sound like to me.
I just got here. I just got here 3 months ago. I started as a new executive director, so there was no way for me to have done that. And I even asked when we were having the conversation about, I'll be honest with you, yeah, I would be possibly interested in submitting an RFP, but we're having conversations as an organization as to where do we want to serve the great.
RFP, we have one down there. It used to be Venice Arts Maker.
What's that?
What you part of Venice Arts Maker?
I'm sorry, what?
Venice Arts Maker.
No. No.
Okay, Venice Arts.
Inside Out?
Venice Arts, are you formerly, Venice Arts, affiliated with, Lynn?
Yes.
Yes, it was formerly Venice Art Mecca.
Yes.
And it was Venice Arts Mecca. And when B. Watt Thomas, myself, several other people in the community voted for the name, they said that the name seemed to be racist. So we had to take them to court and sue them. That's why they can't use the name Mecca, it became Venice Arts under Lynn.
So no, just to clarify, I have not had any conversation with anybody outside of, and Lisa can attest to it, being invited to just be a part of this committee because we serve families and young people from the Venice community. So
we wanted to get someone with, I know there's many organizations that have arts background and experience, so that we're trying to make, the LV not choose from community members, arts-focused organizations, youth organizations.
It could have been used, right?
Yes.
No, we wasn't even notified, and it should be a conflict of interest.
Well, if you were sitting on the committee, that's what I'm saying. If you were sitting here, you couldn't.
Let me say this, it should be a conflict of interest.
Well,
Venice Arts to apply.
Yeah.
Space, hold on, for the space in the Vera Davis Center, if you have the executive director on a committee that's talking about what's gonna go into the Vera Davis Center, I would not want to be on the committee because we're striving to become a tenant again. And second, we've been doing art from the beginning.
So
we used to have meetings in there with young people, black and brown youth,
from Oakwood to talk about art. Thirdly, we have a relationship with one of the most highest respected institutions in the country, which is Otis College, down the street.
Yep.
So art has never been an issue for us, but we do know the importance of having other services. We brokered a non-aggression agreement right in that Vera Davis Center between the black and browns in this community. We haven't had any yellow tape between the two since then. So we gotta make sure we don't lose the narrative on what Vera Davis was all about behind this art project.
Well,
And we can't lose that narrative.
no, and I'm not saying that we do. So, but as we said, as we move forward, right? As we move forward, and figure out the deep. I'll come right back. As we move forward and figure, and that's why Lisa keeps sideline telling you guys, let me know the things that need to be in this RFP, right? How do we dial in the community need, right? It's not related, that is related to art, right? But also representation. How do we dial that into the RFP? So it can still go out and be equitable. You're still going to qualify, as you mentioned that you were concerned about, another entity, which I totally get. These guys put beautiful presentations together, right? With a lot of money and rendering companies. But I think your history here in delivering that service, and even as we talked about it a year ago, is going to be a strong push for you in that RFP process if we end up going that path. Either way. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I just want to say, it just seems like this is such a classic case of the funding driving the use where it should have been, we got a public building here, what does the community want? We got something working here, what do we want to retain, what do we want to add, but we got art funding, so it's
Give
like,
the money back.
nobody consulted with the community, said we gotta fill this with new arts, some high-tech stuff, and we're gonna throw it out whether you want or not.
Well, I mean, and as we were just talking about the history of 1996, right? And us not having been around, but that's what that was supposed to have been.
You guys need to know that right now on our ballot, there are issues that say 30 and 40 years. Pay attention to the current ballot. It says, there's at least 3 of them that say that this particular measure is for a 40-year collection of your funds. And that might be before even it manifests into whatever it is that they say we're voting for. So when we say, why are we here now after 30 years of Measure K collecting money? Because they've been doing other projects. The crazy thing here is that they used other money to fund Vera Davis Center, and then they said, oh, by the way, what about the Measure K aspect of this? Yeah. We gotta build that into this process at some point before it's over. This money is up in 2027.
All right, so really quickly, just to clarify very quickly. As I said, that community engagement piece 30 years ago was supposed to have happened, and that was supposed to have dialed in this community need for an art center here called Oakwood Junior Art Center. That didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
Right. The CDBG funding, it's something I realized as a designer. A Prop K project was my very first design project. The Prop K money was never designed to cover the entire project. They always get little pots of money. And when you go look at this ballot measure and you look at all the projects that are there and the scopes that are associated with it, it's like, how could you have done anything for $500,000 in a historical building? You couldn't have. They were always based on leveraging that money with other city money and other grant money to complete the project. My personal baby that took 7, 8 years of my life, Michelle and Barack Obama Sports Complex, I can't tell you what the funding list looks like. Those were specified Prop K dollars, competitive Prop K dollars. That means Recreation and Parks applied for more grant funding from Prop K as part of a competitive process, and CDBG funds, and Recreation and Parks funds, and a ton of funds that the council office, Councilperson Wesson just really pushed down to make sure they got that $45 million facility. Like, that's how the Prop K funding was structured to work. It was always small parts of funds. Here was the problem that I see in just the history. What should have been presented to you was that we got CDBG funding and Prop K funding, and here's the project we're going to do.
Right.
That's where the transparency did not happen. Right? Did not happen in my watch. He definitely wasn't here. I know the previous general manager, and Lisa wasn't here at that time. So we're here to rectify that, but it's going to require some compromise. We're going to do all we can to dial in the language in the RFP that gives the groups that were there previously the best possible chance of accomplishing if we go the RFP route, right? Because that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to keep working with each other, and then at a certain point, right, we're going to meet with the council office, we're going to meet with the mayor's office, and see what is the process, the sole source, right? And if that can be done, right? And if we receive the resistance that it can absolutely not be done, then we'll be releasing an RFP that is tailored for the community groups that were previously there, that can still provide that art service.
We need Tracy Parks here and Karen Bass here. We need a meeting with them.
That's probably gonna be hard to do, but.
No, should be easy. We're their constituents.
Okay. All right. So really quick, the task for us, we understand our task. I understand the research I need to do and come back with to present to you, right? I understand, but what I need for you to do is to think about the compromise. What arts component would you rather see in this building? That the entities, that's the entity. What art component would you like the entity to run?
I'd love to see us take on that compromise and just the whole process of working together and trying to get everything together. And being flipped into something where we try to figure out how to take what we need to do and fold it into their thing instead of making us fold our things into yours. Since we're in a compromise, let's have that kind of weight.
Absolutely.
We need Bill Attaway. We need Bill Attaway.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
the kids, we need to ask the kids what they want to do.
Absolutely. Right, and that's actually, thank you for bringing that up. All right, so I've had several meetings where I've been sitting in a room with folks of our age, I'm not gonna say the age, and I said, look, the task for you guys is to go back and ask the kids, what do they wanna see here? What's gonna pull them in? That's why the teen lounge and these flexible spaces are there, because we want them to just come and be, and then feel comfortable being, and learn and grow from there, right? Be in the same space, more importantly, and learn and grow from there. Yes, sir. All right, and I'll come right back to you, sir.
We gotta keep that one to jump a little bit. Me, I was born and raised here. I'm one of the teens that have been here for 17 my whole life. And the thing is that just hearing from it's like, I get it, it's a great idea you guys have adding these programs, but like other people said, we're not happy with this. We have programs, we have help that's been helping us, because we want them back in Vera Davis. Because without them, I wouldn't feel safe. People's kids here wouldn't feel safe without them. Because if they're like part of the main foundation that we have here, and just, in my opinion, just taking the Vera Davis like logo out, to me it's kind of just not just for me, but everyone here, because they've done a lot in this community. From what I've heard, it's been a housing place for like kids that were homeless, that needed a safe place to go. There's a lot of programs they have there that I attended that we need, that they've already brought in, and we don't need these extra programs that we're already doing from the past, years.
Thank you. So, but again, you mentioned the helper group, who, as they've noted, have been doing arts programming here since the beginning, right? So I was just asking you guys to go back, think about that program, how you would expand the programming of the community groups you wanted to see back in the building, how you would want that to be tailored specifically for this community's needs, right? Not the larger Venice community's needs, right?
Can we stop calling it the Oakwood Junior Art Center? It is the Vera Davis Center.
So, all right, so look. I didn't.
No, I'm just saying, moving forward.
Oh, yeah.
We address it to the community.
I'll
So the community knows exactly, not the whole
will be called an
Vera
art.
Davis.
It will be.
Say Vera Davis.
It will have an art, the arts moniker will be there.
Small.
And it will be Vera Davis. Vera Davis will be for.
Like nothing changed about that, and the community knows it is that. So we don't know what the Oakwood Junior Arts Center meeting is going to under that.
Somebody please educate me when this was changed into the Vera Davis.
Okay.
What year?
What year was?
97?
97.
So that was 97 and the ballot measure was 96, but you guys told me that.
No, 96.
You guys told me that it was automatic.
Yeah.
No,
It was earlier than that, because when I was not, it was earlier than that.
Okay, so I'm gonna do some research on my end and see what I come back with, like officially in paperwork, but it's not going to matter because we're going to keep it. No. It matters in the sense that we're going to keep the name because it's important to the community. We're gonna dial in the Art Center component because I need to do that for Prop K, to put this money into this project and deliver this to them.
Anything that comes under the center should be under Vera Davis' name, not Oakwood Junior Arts Center. It's Vera McClendon.
Correct.
Okay,
You got
Vera
it.
McClendon. Community Center, Family Center, Family and Youth Center, and then you put Oakwood Junior Arts Center.
It's just gonna, I'm gonna just be very clear as well and transparent. It's gonna be Vera Davis McClendon, right, and Junior Arts Center Hunter. I can't call it a community center or a family center. Then I gotta have a conversation with the city attorney's office. I'm trying to get you guys the project delivered.
Can you tell us what are the advisory committee supposed to do?
Okay.
Sit up there.
I'm sorry, I need to answer his question.
Yeah, another question back, you got another person to ask a question.
Okay, let me answer him and I'll get to
What
this.
is the timeline for the project build out and what is the time frame for the
Sorry.
operations to be?
Pass that 10 times.
I mean, specifically, are there are deadlines that have to be met? I mean,
So,
major-
it's the deadline that has to be met. We have to finish the project regardless because it's a ballot measure, right? What the deadline is, it means that I can't collect any interest and gap funding money to increase that pot of funds in 2027. That's when the cutoff date is. Now, we're still gonna be working on the project in construction probably, right? But there's no danger of losing the funds because we're in construction at that time.
When do you anticipate turning operations over to the?
I will bring back the detailed schedule next week.
So you're talking about years?
Oh yeah, no, not 3 years, but at least a year before an RFP is released. Yeah, because we need to be through with construction.
Let's go back and, because I do think that it would be great to be able to do some of this currently.
Oh, no, absolutely. The structure for it, everything, but the requirement in terms of when we need to release that so we can make sure operations is in place when the building is opening, it's about a year. But the structure will be worked out well in advance, a draft circulated with this team, and everybody's buy-in accomplished. Let me get this gentleman real quick.
Yeah, so just to answer the question, it was 1997 when the name was changed. And at the time, my father was selected as the director of that location, Melvin Hagel Sr.
Okay.
I'm here today as the senior director of the BRID office on behalf of the mayor's office. And I just want to speak on behalf of Helper Foundation and the partnership that we've had the last 15 years. And the thousands of individuals that have been served on behalf of intervention and prevention services from youth ages 10 to 25 years old. And so when I think about compromise and I think about making sure that this community is represented and the young people are being thought about when we think about developing a strategy, I think that intervention and prevention services need to be recognized. And so they have been a partner for us for a long time and we've done phenomenal work. I'm responsible for 23 grid zones across the city. And this is one of the partners that's been a part of the grid since the inception. And so whatever happens, my hope is that we can continue to have this organization play a critical role in this building to ensure that the youth in this community receive those resources. Thank you all.
Okay.
in reference to Venice Library.
Right.
The fact that in 1997, after this was passed, the city renamed it the Vera Davis Center is suggestive of the fact that that may not have been the property that was referred to in the prop. If you follow the documents that are publicly available, you guys obviously know more than I do because I can only see what you can find online. The city at some point decided that that prop was going to refer to the Vera Davis Center. And that's when this whole ball of wax got into motion. So I would just actually ask, because I would say the city's somewhat legally vulnerable here, I would ask that you go back and actually look at the prop, because it does seem to me that the city decided they want to use prop pay money for the center, and so they're shoehorning history into the plan. And I think at least, the documents I got are from the Bureau of Engineering website, the city's website.
Yeah, you
So
looked
I
at the
would encourage
referendum?
you to go back and look at that, and I would also encourage you to not further the narrative that the prop specifically referenced the Vera Davis Center or the Old Venice Library, because in the text it doesn't.
Okay. So I'll double check the history on that, but when the program was passed on to me, and I brought this up, I still have access to the previous program manager, thank God, and at least 20 years of experience that he's had in working on all these many projects. When I asked him, like, is there another site? He noted to me, and I'll follow up with him again, that it was specific to the Old Venice Library. So I'll come back. That'll be my to-do moment, my to-do item, to come back and give you a little bit more detail on that, whatever I can find. I know that it's late and folks need to go. I will. So the committee at the end of the second LVNOC meeting, we'll vote really quickly, guys. I'll make this fast. At the end of the second LVNOC meeting, we will vote on the programming, right? The types of programming you guys bring forward in terms of arts programming that can happen at the facility. And then that final meeting, we'll have a floor plan, renderings, et cetera, that show you how we're accomplishing that. Once again, in the flexible manner that creates different spaces within this very open plan facility.
But
And
what is our role?
The LVNOC members will dial in the community's input, and they will vote and approve those elements.